If you've ever felt completely sane before a relationship with an avoidant and then completely unrecognizable once in it, this video is going to explain exactly what happened to you today. And I will warn you, this may be slightly confronting. The entire goal of this video is to maybe share a more honest but unpopular opinion about what's actually going on here. And we're gonna cover 4 main points about what's happened to you and what you need to be able to do with this information to completely transform your life. So here's the first of 4 points, and it's that relationships are not just for love. They are for growth. Now, if you look at the original way back work of Abraham Maslow that was then later adapted by people like Tony Robbins, we basically have these 6 basic needs. The need is for novelty, certainty, which you can think of as like safety, then also love and connection, growth, contribution, and significance. A lot of times people think of relationships as meeting the need for significance because they make you feel special or important or wanted. But obviously the biggest one is love and connection. We feel a sense of closeness and infatuation, and we have these romantic and close exchanges that create this sense of love and connection. The honest reality is that relationships are just as much for all of those other needs, including, and maybe most importantly at times, the need for growth. And here's what I mean by this. Every relationship you have is a mirror into yourself. It is literally showing you to yourself. And you can think of everything that triggers you in anybody that you're close to as being something that's showing you your own conditioning. It's showing you your own glass ceilings, your own pain points in relationships. And if you are willing to look closely, you're going to be able to revolutionize your own life through the people that trigger you. They are your teachers. Pain is a very powerful teacher, but only if we're listening. If we don't listen and we don't take the lessons from pain, pain keeps repeating itself in a cycle because we go back through the painful things over and over again without recognizing it. And so you have to ask yourself a question. Do you want your pain to be random or for a purpose? Because ultimately you get to choose. So let's look at how, under point number 1 here, the dismissive avoidant in a relationship is triggering something that's showing you your own stuff. Generally what happens is if somebody's constantly pulling away and they are running or they are, retreating into their shell, what is painful about this is not just objectively this person's behavior not meeting your needs in a relationship, but actually subjectively what's taking place inside of you. And if you're willing to look, you'll see, quite honestly, those behaviors of the dismissive avoidant, that triggers your own sense of inadequacy or fear of being irrelevant or fear of not being good enough or lovable or fear of being abandoned. And so you can look at the dismissive avoidance behavior and we can all day long blame that person. And objectively, when we look at a relationship, obviously somebody's supposed to be able to move towards you and have a conversation and hash things out. Those things are true from a perspective of ideally, this is what we'd be looking for. And ideally, this is what's healthy. But if you keep going into relationship after relationship with avoidant people and they drive you nuts, they're driving your conditioning nuts. And your conditioning, if you keep ending back up there with the same person, it says something really important about you. So I want to ask you, and this brings me to point number 2, so that you can find your exact own pain points here. I want to ask you, when the dismissive avoidant pulled away from you and kept doing that, what did you make it mean about yourself? Or what were you afraid was ultimately going to happen? And if you're willing to sit with that question, you might see some really powerful beliefs come up that you've probably been carrying for a very long time, long before since ever dating just a dismissive avoidant attachment style. In fact, a lot of these beliefs come from our conditioning all the way back in our early childhood experiences. You kind of have one of 2 options. You either allow the avoidance behavior, as much as objectively it's yes, not healthy, you allow it to show you who you are and recognize your own conditioning and do the work and heal, or you go back down the same old path of only blaming the avoidant. And then you probably keep perpetuating that pattern of attracting avoidance in your life. So I want to ask you, what comes up for you when I ask you the question, what do you make it mean? Or what are you afraid will happen every time the avoidant pulls away? And try to really look here. Do you make it mean you're not worthy or you're not relevant or important to somebody, or that you don't matter, or that you're not good enough? And this brings me to point number 3, which is I want to ask you, even though that feels really real in that moment, even though that belief comes on so strongly, Why on earth are you allowing someone else's wounded behavior to define your character? Why does somebody you've been on a few dates with, or maybe one date with, when they pull away, why does that decide whether you are good enough or not as a person? Or why does that decide what your relevance is? It doesn't. And so you might have been making this mean that about yourself this whole time, but that doesn't make it objectively true. I want to ask you a little bit more deeply. From a cognitive behavioral therapy standpoint, can you 100% know that it's true? That the moment that person pulls away or leaves a relationship or doesn't want to commit or doesn't invest the way you hoped, can you 100% know that that actually means that you're not good enough? In fact, could it be something other than that? And I want to encourage you to really question that. Could there be another reason other than you being not good enough or unworthy or unlovable or whatever story you've created there? Could there be another reason that they're pulling away? Perhaps like, oh, they're avoidant. They don't know how to be vulnerable. It's a struggle for them. It's their own childhood stuff. It was never about you to begin with. Or maybe they just don't feel a connection because they don't really know how to be vulnerable and open up in a deeper way. Why does their behavior define your character? And when are you going to put a stop to that? And this is such a painful cycle people go through. And I'm going to go to point number 4 here in just a moment. But I want you to know that if you've been repeating this cycle, there can be an end to it. You see, you're not born with your conditioning. It gets fired and wired into you through repetition and emotion across time. When we're repeatedly exposed to painful behaviors, then what ends up taking place is we internalize them. We make it mean things about ourselves, and that becomes something that our ego mind identifies with and starts to see as a part of our identity. For example, if you made it mean every time your avoidant partner doesn't text or call you enough that you're not good enough, that's probably because historically, maybe you had critical parents or a very strict set of teachers and mentors in your childhood. And every time they gave you feedback, trying to prepare you for the outside world, you made it mean you weren't good enough. And then you did that so many times, it became a part of your identity at a subconscious level. And now you see and interact with the world through that lens. But just because you've developed that lens doesn't make it objective reality. And that lens, it can be rewired. You're not born with those things. They get wired into you. You can leverage the same principles to rewire them. I just wanted to pop in here and let you know we are doing a 7-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below. Here's the 4th major thing. What's really interesting is that we are very attracted to people. The fundamental drivers of attraction, it's actually biological, it's called trait variety, is that we are attracted to people that express your repressed traits. Why? Because way back in the day, if you're out there trying to survive in the wild and somebody really smart pairs up with somebody really strong, once you pair up together, you have a better chance of survival because you have different traits that can complement each other. So we're actually very deeply wired to be attracted to people who express different traits than we do. But usually the things we are very attracted to, unless we integrate them into ourselves, we get very frustrated and triggered by them later on. For example, you might be very attracted to a dismissive avoidance assertiveness early on, but later on, unless you also learn to become assertive and have boundaries and state your needs, you get very frustrated that their assertiveness prevents them from making compromises. A really powerful thing is I want you to, as a sort of a secondary exercise here, look at what are the traits I was so attracted to when I first started dating an avoidant, and how do those things become lessons for me to integrate? If I was attracted to the fact that that person's so grounded all the time, maybe I should practice being more attuned to myself and grounding into myself. If I was attracted so much to people's sense of assertiveness, maybe I need to practice stating my own needs and boundaries more frequently. If I was attracted to the avoidance self-assuredness, maybe that's something I have to work on as well. Because until you integrate those traits, you'll keep chasing them outside of yourself, and then it will drive you crazy. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here as a part of the community, and I'll see you next time.